Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Higher Line podcast. We've got a great episode today. We're going to blow your mind about the gun safe industry and the bullshit that you might have in your basement or garage. We've got our friend Tom Kubinick out here from Secure-It. Former metal guitarist, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe still a guitarist, but
Still a guitar player, but not,
you don't identify as a guitarist any longer.
my hair no longer is past my waist.
No,
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
good. It looks. I can see it. I close my eyes.
Yeah,
I see
there you
it.
go. There's pictures out there. It's pretty funny stuff.
So you just flew in from the East Coast.
I was down in Houston.
Came up
had
from.
had a meeting down there with product development. We just hired a new head of product development, and we were working with some of our sourcing guys, putting together handgun storage.
Cool.
Which is new for us, something we haven't done before.
Awesome. We'll talk
Yeah.
about your products. Let's talk about you a little bit. Who's Tom? Why do people give a shit? Why should they know who Tom Kubinick is?
Maybe they should, but if they did, former guitar player, tendonitis ended my career, got into sales, and after 2 years, telemarketing started a small company in my apartment, which grew to 18 employees selling computer-related supplies. Early days of the internet, I started just making up websites for all sorts of stuff, from crossbows to just all sorts of gizmos.
Crossbows?
Well, I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I was just trying to come up with something that back at the time Yahoo would find. SEO, that's kind of the magic of this. How do you get found? Ended up being tape racks for computer tapes. Back in the day, companies would back up their computers. They had thousands of these. They had to store them, and they bought racks to do it. And
Do you remember these tapes, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So TapeRack.com was number one. In fact, I ended up with about 60 different websites, all interrelated, but we owned the space. We became the largest seller of tape racks in the country.
So you were just trying to find a niche you could get into
Yeah.
and own the space. You didn't care. You weren't passionate about tape racks.
No, not at all.
Or crossbows.
Right.
You just wanted to make a living.
We were just trying to find oxygen in the early days of the internet. It worked. And that morphed into laptop storage when the HIPAA laws came out. Every hospital had to lock up every hard drive, every laptop.
Oh.
So we went to our tape rack suppliers and said, let's make laptop cabinets. And they said, sure, So we kind of worked together. That's the first time we actually got in a little bit of product development. And we did that for about 6 months to a year into it. I got a phone call and the guy says, hey, can you guys store an MP5? And I'm like, sure. Like, what's an MP5?
Right.
I didn't know. And he goes, it's a little machine gun. I started laughing. I go, who is this? He was with the FBI. I said, I'm sure we could. Can you let me do a little bit of research? And I started looking, and it didn't take long, just a little bit of research, and I came across all this information. The military was transitioning from the M16 to the M4, going from a very standardized battle rifle to a weapon system, modular. So they were transitioning from M16 battle rifle, very standard 39-inch weapon, to an M4, which is a weapon storage, we call it a weapon storage platform, modular, scalable. You had different size barrels, stocks, and a lot of attachments. Every rack in the military armories didn't work. So they had a serious problem. And so we said, we got to do something about this. At that time, it was really being driven by how can we support the warfare? The Gulf War was kind of winding down, but there was a lot of stuff going on. And
What year was this about?
2002.
Okay.
2001 going to 2002. And we started developing some weapon storage, working with a Canadian manufacturer. Came out with the first product offering and had some success with it. Secure-It was a 4-person company, and we completely bullshitted our way into a large contract with U.S. Army Special Forces. We were up against some big defense contractors. The contract was to survey their armories and prepare a report for command as to why their armories are failing and make recommendations as to things to improve. Well, we looked at everybody involved. Nobody knew anything about this. So we went in.
They were just taking whatever they sold and trying to plug it in.
Pretty much. And nobody really made weapon racks to the point. Space Saver had a product out that was designed by the Marine Corps that they were using that was marginal, but it worked. So we went in with the idea of, Gary, a guy who worked for me, we're our shirts white enough? Do our ties look good? We had no idea what we were doing. In the sense of presentation at this level, and just came in. I said, my name's Tom Kubanek. I'm the leading authority on small arms storage. And we really think we're the company to do. We're a small company, but this is what we do. And we got the contract. And I learned a valuable lesson. It was bold what we did. But if there is no expert in a field, claim it.
I've done it my whole life.
It's-
I mean, you got to have something to back it up. You can't just.
the
I
difference
can't walk
is-
into a hospital and be like,
Right.
I'm the leading heart surgeon.
Right. We claimed it. However, I had years of experience in data storage products, in physical storage, it was all spatial relations. We viewed it the same way.
You were just putting something different into
Correct.
machines or apparatuses that you already were crafting.
So we spent the next 18 months traveling all over the country, visiting all their armories, and we had access that no civilian gets. So we're in all the armories, we're meeting the armorers, we're interviewing them, we're watching them work, and it's during that time that we actually became the experts. You
saw the problems.
Right. Nobody saw what we saw.
You invested the energy to go look at all the stuff that needed to be remedied.
And we presented a report to them. We also made a recommendation. We developed our Cradle Grid. At that time, we called it the Secure Tactical Weapon Storage Platform. Later, we named it Cradle Grid, and we presented everything, and they said, this makes a lot of sense. We started selling. There wasn't overnight success to the military. There were other competitors. They don't do contracting like that, but we started working our way in the military, and within 3 years, we were the largest supplier to the U.S. military.
It's cool.
We became the pros from Dovers. We've done most of the SEAL teams. We do U.S. Army Special Forces, Big Army. We're doing Okinawa right now. And
I think I saw that in one of your press releases.
yeah, and that's with COVID. That project is, if in hindsight, there's a point when we said we should not have pursued this contract.
Do you guys install the stuff or just supply the components?
We're responsible for it. We've hired local labor. We've got a firm we're working with. We have a retired Marine who lives in Okinawa who works for us. We hired him for this project.
You have one guy on site that can...
Yeah, he does a great job. Getting product there right now, we actually purchased 22 shipping containers. We own shipping containers because we couldn't get them. We're shipping everything there. It's arriving like right now, this week. And we have a buyer in China that's going to buy all the containers. We'll probably make money selling the containers. But we shot up, one of the fastest growing companies in America, like crazy with the military, and then sequestration hit. And I went 5-6 months without getting a single order. Bled through all my cash, sold off most of my personal, anything I have of value. I was at the point where my wife and I were going to sell the house. And ended up laying off most of my staff.
What year was that?
That was 2011, maybe.
Okay, I was going to say 10.
It was second Obama term, and it's not an Obama problem. It was a legislative.
I appreciate you saying
legislative.
That, people.
I'm not a supporter of his policies, but this was a legislative laziness problem.
Yeah.
Sequestration was put in place because they didn't want to do their job.
Sure.
But it killed us, and we started getting some orders and building back up, but that was at that time, I've got to do something different. We made the decision, let's look at the retail space, and we really didn't know it. I'd owned firearms, and I wasn't a gun guy. I wasn't big into this.
Yeah.
I'd like to go shooting. I did a little bit of hunting, but we started looking at gun safes. Our first thought was, we had this really neat system for storing. Military loved it. Let's partner with the safe manufacturer. So I met with Liberty, I met with Rhino, all the companies out in the Utah area. And after those meetings, it was
Is that kind of like the hotbed for safe?
It is. I think it started with a company, a guy in the late 60s, 70s, started a company I'm not sure which one it was, of the companies that are out there, but Liberty spun off, Ryan, all these companies spun off of one company.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's like Indiana for trailer sales.
Exactly. Yeah, that's, it's the same thing. So
you wanted to say to them, hey, I've got this product that we can put in your safes, make all the storage nice and neat.
Let's partner. I'll license you the technology. And it was during those meetings that we realized, I walked away saying, wow, we will never do business with these people. It was mind-numbing because the first thing they said is, Liberty Fat Boy Jr., they said, well, your system only holds 12 guns. And I'm saying, your safe only holds 12 guns. And they said, that's a 60 gun safe. I said, I understand that, but your capacity is way overstated. And the head of sales, their executive position, he said, well, that's our industry's little white lie. And I looked at him, I go, little white lie? He goes, we say 60, our competitor says 58. If they say 61, we say 62 because they sell the product. I said,
Yeah.
back in my mind, I shut up at that point. Back in my mind, I'm going, your customers are smarter than you think.
Yeah.
And so I got to the meeting with them, and it was, in their boardroom, senior boardroom, 3 people didn't own any firearms. None of them owned an AR-15. Why doesn't an AR-15 fit in a safe? Well, nobody that runs these safe companies owns the damn thing.
Yeah.
And now you've got investment firms. They're owned by Compass. Diversified owns Liberty. Canon bought Stack-On, the 2 biggest companies. They bought each other with VC money, venture capital money. So you've got, nothing wrong with capitalism, but you've got, Wall Street firms owning these companies. These companies' primary mission is to generate return, which I'm a
Zero wrong with that, but they're not. It's what happens when in the music business when you get people that are producing music that aren't musicians or artists.
Right.
So you're peddling shit.
Right. That's what their core function is: profit, not. Firearms are a little different than other industries because you're dealing with deadly force. You're dealing with something that can kill people. You just got to take a different approach. Mm-hmm. And our industry's under attack, and the safe industry is not helping. Mm-hmm. So we backed away from all that and said, we've got to do this ourselves. And we started developing products for a consumer market outside of the safe industry.
So instead of me going to the big box store and buying XYZ metal cabinet with sheetrock and carpet inside of it, you have a product or products?
Correct.
Okay.
We made an attempt to sell through Bass Pro and through some of the big box stores, and we really realized our safes didn't sell next to gun safes well at all. And it goes back to when I was at...
Because the buyer's conditioned to see that shiny metal cabinet?
It goes back to, you have a board meeting with these guys, and they're very corporate, and they're all very polished, and they're good. And then they say, do you want a plant tour? And you say, absolutely. Well, they give you a plant manager does the tour. He's not a polished executive. So I chat him up, and he just spills the beans about everything about the safe industry.
Tom just got like 5 guys fired.
No, won't say the name of the company. I toured several, but
he just got plant managers at several companies fired.
Sorry, guys, call me. I've got positions available. But it came the way the realization is the gun safes are designed to look good empty because that's how people buy them. When you go to SHOT Show, all the gun safes are empty. We were at SHOT Show with our booth. Every single thing we had was maxed out in capacity. Our booth was a showstopper. We were packed with people because they'd never seen storage actually maxed out. Liberty can't. They can't do it because their 30 gun safe only holds, 12.
I've got one, and I've always looked at those things like security guards, like at a ball game. They're theater. It keeps the kids out.
Yeah.
Put your documents and stuff in there so they're in one spot, so when the house burns, you hope to find them.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But it's not going to keep a bad guy out.
No, they're not. We've demonstrated that.
I've cut a few up over the years, too.
The industry focuses on the door, and that's where all their weight is, and they show all the bolts and corner bolts and all this stuff that you cannot pry these open. Take a circular saw, cheap circular saw with a carbide blade. And we've got videos on this. It's a $20 blade. I cut a gun safe completely in half. It's a big safe. It's a minute, 20 seconds, and I cut a 12-inch hole in the side in 18 seconds.
I used a splitting wedge and an axe to drive the door off of one before, too. A good one.
Yeah, it's a determined thief who knows you have a safe will open it up in minutes. That's not why you have a safe. Now, we look at storage from a different standpoint. Security, that's going back to our military, how and why the military stores firearms. If you're going to store firearms in your home or secure them in a method or in a way that gives you an advantage, that puts you at a tactical advantage. Most people own firearms. One of the reasons is home defense. Even your avid hunters say, well, I'm a hunter, but if somebody breaks in, I still want a firearm. So store them in a way that gives you an advantage. And we use, our term is principles of decentralized storage. Break up the safe, store in small modular cabinets located throughout your home. Put you in you're much safer. The guns are safer for a lot of reasons we can go into. and you're never more than 3 seconds away from a firearm that is truly child safe.
What's the method of entry into these safes? Is there more
We
than
use
one?
we use simple push button locks. No, like the fingerprint readers we would never use.
Yeah.
We consider this never fail technology. If somebody is in your house with a gun shooting at you, it has to open in a second or two. You don't have in a fingerprint reader, if your fingers are dirty, wet, gloves, there's so many reasons they won't open.
I've had issues with them.
Yeah.
I've got a few
Yeah.
apparatuses that have those on them.
Yeah, so from a defense standpoint, it's never fail. That's why, it's same thing with firearms for home defense.
So it's just like a 5.
It's programmable depending on the unit. A lot of like our Fastbox bolts to your bed. It's a 4-button. It's designed you lay your hand on it. You just do it by memory.
It's not something a kid can sit and push over and over until they come up with the.
There's over 10,000 combinations. You're not gonna. You're not gonna get. You'll be there forever trying to figure out a lock combination. So no, I don't. We were over 10,000, which is considered. That's the standard by which. Like California DOJ. That's a lot of combinations. But our manual, our teaching is when you install our product, every night when you go to bed, reach down in the dark, open it, move the gun, put it back, close it. You do that for 30 days, 35 days, then do it once a week. You're building muscle memory. You're training your body. It's just like if you're doing shooting drills. You do them every day for so many days because you're teaching muscle memory.
Sure.
So, draw all those. Again, I'm not a gun. The minute the gun comes out of the box,
Now you're in my world, Tom.
Right,
Take it
right,
easy.
Exactly,
Take it easy.
Exactly.
Stick to bullshitting the military
That's
on
right.
large volumes of
No,
sales.
we talk about that. As I always tell people, look, up until the gun coming out of the cabinet, I'm your guy.
I think that's an excellent. We talk about that with students constantly. Same place, same method of how whatever condition you leave it in, and then practice with it there and have a time. So I think I 100% agree with that.
So, but that's the idea is because in a true crisis, it could be loud, confusing. You're going to be scared. Your heart rate could be doing God knows what. But if you've got that muscle memory, you're going to reach down calmly, quickly. You're going to have, and boom, and you're going to be in a position to defend yourself. The other side of that is the safest place in your home for storing valuables from a sense of preventing theft are also some of the best locations for defense, for home defense. You can run through, if you look at FBI crime data, if a thief breaks into your home, master bathroom, it's the first place he's going. Master bedroom, if he wants drugs, that's a number one thing. Valuables, home office den, dining room possibly, and then they're out, usually in less than 9 minutes. If they know there's a safe in the house and they're after a safe, they'll check the basement. So when you look at or security side of it, master bedroom's the worst place to store things. I would recommend one fast access gun cabinet. We make them. There's other good ones out there next to your bed with one firearm. If you're married, both shooters, one per. Next, you look at kitchen. Thieves don't go into kitchens. There's nothing there of value. If you've got a decent pantry, I've got a good-sized gun collection. It's decentralized. In my pantry, I've got a 6-gun cabinet. I've got a mixture of some vintage various guns. I've got an AR-15 magazine and ready to roll. That's my home defense weapon in that part of the house. Front hall closet.
You can fall back to that point.
Right. If I'm in the kitchen, somebody breaks in, boom, it's right there. If you don't have room, a small handgun, fast access safe somewhere in that room. Front hall closet, coat closet next to your front door. It's one of the safest places in your house. People don't realize thieves ignore these things. It's just coats. They don't. The enemy of a thief is time. They're in and out as fast as they can. I've got a cabinet in there. Again, I've got 6 guns in there. Mine's mostly lever action.
I got to interrupt you. These were the safest places until you just told everybody.
I still think it's.
I'm just kidding.
The thieves aren't watching high-end podcasts.
They might be. We could be the.
That's right.
The podcast for thieves.
It's. But on our website, there's a whole thing about places to store firearms. Guest bedroom. You take a room in your house. If you've got an extra bedroom, put a bed in it. Nightstand with a lamp, a generic piece of art, and the room is empty. If they're running the house a little extra time, they're going to ignore that room. In that closet in my home, I've got 24 rifles. It's at the end of a hallway.
Are any of these safes, do they have any fire protection?
No.
No. So you don't waste the energy with that?
There's no data to support the claims of of the gun safe industry on fire. Fire ratings are 100% bullshit. It's BS. And we're going to cook some safes off this. I'm hoping that later this summer, just time schedules get crazy, but when they do a test, and we actually built the TrueSafe, and it's still available through Safe and Vault. We no longer offer it with our name on it. It's so heavy, it's outside of what we do, but we designed it. Yeah, it's a double-walled concrete safe, and it's a true safe, and it weighs so much, we logistically couldn't deal with it, so we had it manufactured, and we're OEMing it to a company that does heavy safes, and it does very well. But the testing they do, like all the safe companies, safe goes in an oven, probes go in the safe, temperature comes up to 1,300 degrees, and they cook it. And the temperature hits 350. How much time went by? It was an hour, 10 minutes. It's an hour rating. So you got a pizza in your oven at your house. You open up the oven, put your hand in that oven. It's 450 degrees. Air's not moving. You can hold your hand in there for minutes. It's going to heat up very slowly. Then take the exhaust from a jet engine. It's 500 degrees, going 60 miles an hour. Put your hand in front of it. Within seconds, you're going to be burning the skin off your bones. Convective force, that motion rips. When you look at a fire in a home, and I actually had a fire chief, my local fire chief worked for me for many years. He was a volunteer fire chief. I learned a lot. So your air in your home is moving in a harsh fire well in excess of 60 miles an hour. It's a torrent whipping around. It rips these safes apart. Literally in 5 to 10 minutes, a gun safe is gone. The content's gone. When you look at, if anybody Googles California wildfires, gun safes. When they had those hot fires that went through there 3 years ago, there's not a safe that survived. And there's several stories, I'm not sure how far they got pushed down in Google search, of big gun collections gone, just dust, because none of them survived. So it's this idea of buying a safe.
Surely there must be some fire-rated safes out there that do their job, or people wouldn't keep buying them.
There are. You need a cement-filled safe. American Security makes a... I'm not sure what series.
Old school safes,
it's old school
like
safe.
you'd see like at like a bank.
Right.
Yeah.
A double-walled filled safe, which is the original. I mean, I did a big talk at SHOT Show several years ago on the history of the gun safe, and it goes back to the original Silas Herring design, which was that. And then in the 70s, they got rid of the outer steel, they got rid of the concrete, and just lined it with drywall, and they called it a safe. And it really isn't a safe.
Yeah, it's sheet metal.
It's so. To close up on the whole fire rating piece that people should realize is you don't need one. What are the odds of your house burning?
It's very slim.
If you look at insurance data, and we've looked at a lot of it.
Water is the big damager of homes.
Water and smoke. Yeah. Smoke is the big damage. 90% of all fires, I think it's 80, if I shouldn't get more exact, but high 80s% of all fires in the home occur within the kitchen, are contained within the stove or within a pot.
Yeah.
There's no fire. It's smoke damage. That's why there's an insurance claim. Actual heat damage, open flame damage in a home is extremely rare. When it occurs, it's human related. It's usually carelessness, smoking or candles, and it's usually confined to a corner of a room. If you live in a city with a professional firefighting force, the response time is typically less than 4 minutes. I have a volunteer firefighting force. I'm in a small town. I'm 11 minutes to my house. Fire's not it. I'm not concerned about fire. And then when you decentralize storage and locate guns throughout your house, if you have a fire that burns a room in your home badly, you might lose a few guns, but you're not losing your collection. Secondly, if a thief knows you're gone for the weekend and's got all day long to run your house and go through things, they eventually will find a cabinet. And they will get it open. Yeah. I mean, we're not saying you can cut through my cabinets too. They're just smaller, lighter, easier to live with. But once they do that, they might get 3, 4, 5 of your guns. But once they found those, now they have something of value. Now the pressure's on them. They have to get out because now they have something to lose. You know, they took the risk to break in.
So let me stop you for a second. You just said you can cut through yours too. I mean, anything can be broken into, right? Fort Knox could be broken into if somebody had the time and the initiative. Why not make them so they're so hard to get into? Does it cost too much, too heavy?
Well, the question then becomes, we made our TrueSafe, which is the outer steel. A steel blade will cut that steel, but the cement filling kills that blade.
Sure.
A cement blade, steel gums up those blades. So it's very difficult. You need a diamond blade, and even then it takes a long time to go through this. The cost is you're into a safe that's pushing 2,000 pounds. You don't need it. You just don't need it. Actual safe robbery, this type of thing is pretty rare. And just good basic security. If you're really worried about it, harden the outside of your house first.
100% agree with that.
Yeah,
That's one of what we're proponents of. So what I'm kind of hearing is your product really does a great job of keeping unwanted hands off the guns, and then you're educating the consumer on, hey, what's the real risk here? It's probably your kids getting the guns or neighbor kids or something like that.
Right. If every firearm in America was properly locked, and for us that means out of sight, because these things are a magnet for kids, how many tragedies would be avoided?
Yeah.
Lanza, was it Newtown? He walked into his mom's house, picked up her rifle, and shot her before she could say boo.
Yeah.
And that's the best data that I could get on it. If she had her guns properly locked, would she have had time to talk this kid off whatever ledge or wherever he was?
Sure.
You don't know. There was a chance to stop this.
This is a hard discussion with dudes in the industry, which I hate that term. But I've got so many guys that we're huge proponents of safety. Guys will ask me, when should I start teaching my kids? I say day one. And I think every young person should go to a hunter safety course, even if they're not hunters.
Yeah.
It's a great program, and there's a lot of reasons why, but they instill in kids a ethics and morals about firearms and the taking of life. And you start to talk about this with guys, and they get vehement. It's my right. Don't tell me how to keep a gun in the house.
I know.
Every couple months, we share a video of Drew's usually the one that puts them together of somebody who died or got shot by their kid getting access to the gun. I mean, if you just a cursory look on the internet, and you know this, it's almost daily somebody is shot or a kid is shot because mom or dad's gun is accessed. Yep. It's an interesting thing, this whole concept of liberty versus the public good and safety. But it's
frustrating. I mean, I'm a big 2A guy, but again, just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's the smartest thing to do.
Yep.
And if you're a big proponent of the Second Amendment, if you love having your guns and you want your gun rights preserved, act in a way, do things in a way that actually helps. Putting your guns in fast access safes isn't going to slow down your access. I can demonstrate this in many, many ways. I can get to my gun faster than you can get to yours, even though yours isn't locked. Because of where I have them and where they are in my house, unless you got a gun laying all over your house, and it's just not safe.
People definitely do that.
They do, but it's not safe. And I got in this conversation with someone. Well, I don't have kids. I don't have grandkids, so I don't worry about it. I said, okay, I understand. Here's a scenario for you. It's when these tragedies occur, it's a chain of events of unusual things that happened out of the ordinary that caused this kid to find this gun and discharge it. And so I said, okay, so again, you got guns laying there. Your neighbor calls. She's got 3 kids down the street. Husband had a massive heart attack. She's not expected to live. She's got to get to the hospital right away. It's a horrible thing. Can you watch the kids just for a couple hours? My sister's coming over. Kids are in the house.
Sure.
Sister can't make it. Husband dies. They're both at the hospital. They've got the kids now for 2 days. The world's upside down for this family. You're helping out. You got 3 kids in your home that you've never had kids in your home before. You don't realize it. You think you put the guns away, but you don't realize that there's a handgun in a closet. There's one. They're around.
Sure.
Boom. There's a situation where a kid could find a gun. They're bored. They're in a place they don't know. They know things are stressful, so they're being kids.
Yeah.
I said, and they're like, well, the odds of that happening are ridiculous. I said, absolutely. But when you trace the stories of all these kids, so many of them, the odds of that happening were ridiculous, but it did happen.
Kids find stuff. I mean, every one of us dug in our dad's stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I knew where the firecrackers were. Yeah, I knew where all the stuff was.
Our friend Jared Reston, who's alive but was shot by a shoplifter that he was apprehending, shot 7 times, first round entered his face. That gun was stolen years before out of a home burglary in Miami, and this was in the north end of Florida. Yeah. So that I don't think people understand how often firearms are stolen out of homes and vehicles. You do anything for vehicle storage yet?
Our fast box was originally designed for law enforcement to prevent smash and grab was huge. 15 years ago.
So these like bolt into a trunk?
Yeah, they do. And
how big are they?
The fast box is 40 inches and 47 inches.
Okay.
The 47 is really a home model designed for a shotgun or AR-15. It can hold handguns. It bolts, under your bed. It can go vertical. There's a lot of applications for this for very fast access for firearms. I have several in my home in different locations. If you have a larger collection, I use larger cabinets in some areas because, again, my whole collection is stored throughout my house. You could spend a lot of time in my house. You'd never know I own firearms. I have a display room that I can set up or I can take it down, kind of the man cave room.
Do you get pushback from people in the safe business? You guys get hate mail? You get people...
Not in the safe industry. We're just coming on the radar screen of a lot of these people. I get pushback from owners, gun owners who, we're challenging a belief. These guys spent $2,500, $3,000, sometimes $6,000, $7,000 on this unbelievable safe. And it's got the lettering on it, Wild Wild West. The paint job was $1,000. I mean, this thing is, and it's sitting next to his fireplace. Big stone rock, river rock fireplace, a pool table, incredible view. And I'm going like, guys, this is security. Cornerstone of security is secrecy. Brochures of the safe brochures show family heirloom safes in the billiard room. I'm like, you're nuts. The military doesn't. They store their guns in armories that you won't even know where they are for a reason. Secrecy is secrecy is the best security.
Sure, I agree.
So we make small, modular, lightweight cabinets that you can take and put anywhere. The other piece with the gun safe industry doesn't talk about, and is trending against them, is personal mobility and moving. Every year, the average number of times an American family, American person moves drops. 10 years ago, it was every 11 years. Now it's down to, almost below every 6 years, like 6.1 years is the average time that you're in a home. So if you own a big, heavy gun safe, the two most left behind things when you move, hot tubs and gun safes. Because you spent $1,200 for this Liberty, or whatever, doesn't matter, whatever brand gun safe, and now you're going to move. Maybe even it's a corporate move and the company's going to move you. Well, the moving company won't touch a gun safe. They don't want the liability, and they don't want that big, heavy box in their truck destroying all the furniture they're insuring. So you got to hire a local company, safe company, to come in and remove the safe, package it, trucking company to relocate it, another safe company to reinstall it. $400 on each side, $400 to $600 in the middle, you're into $1,200 real quick to move a safe. If the average person moves every 6.1 years, if you really believe you're buying a $6,000 safe as a long-term investment, well, you're going to have another $6,000, $10,000 in moving the damn thing. Really, go lightweight. It's just, you're not getting anything for all that weight. And the materials they're using in a safe, we haven't talked about it, they're corrosive. The industry
talk about that a little bit.
They sell millions of dollars. This is fascinating. They sell millions of dollars in products to stop corrosion in gun safes. If you got a glass door cabinet, maybe in a restaurant or above a fireplace, my grandfather had guns stored for 50 years. They didn't corrode. If a gun is properly cleaned, properly oiled, properly maintained, it does not corrode. Part of there's the maintenance, but you got to,
you got to maintain them.
You do.
Now, if you live on the Carolina shore or the Gulf Coast or something, definitely different than living in Utah in the high desert.
In high humidity, part of that maintenance is cleaned and oiled, and then even if you're not using it, you're going back through it.
Sure.
On a regular basis.
Sure, as you would with anything it's metal in your garage.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But within a gun safe, they sell all these materials because within a gun safe, we call it the toxic box years ago. The materials inside a gun safe are banned from use in military armories. They're banned from use in most museums.
Like what?
Because formaldehyde is a big one. It's in the adhesive in the carpeting. The adhesive stays soft and rubbery. Well, it's prone to mold and mildew, so they put formaldehyde in it so it doesn't do that. Formaldehyde is in drywall, and it's part of the process. It's a dispersing agent in the slurry. I don't know the science of it. I did some reading up on it, but they make drywall. So you've got a lot of formaldehyde. Then you've got pyrite occurs naturally in gypsum. And it's fool's gold. It's one of the most common elements out there. And it's in all the drywall. On the pyrite live ferrooxidant bacteria. That bacteria is used in the mining industry to strip metal from low-grade ores. It lives on the pyrite and just slowly consumes it. Well, it will consume any other metal in that safe as well. But when it eats pyrite, the output is sulfurous and sulfuric acids. Those are two of the most corrosive acids to steel. And I tell anybody, go to a store that sells gun safes. If the safe's been closed for a while, have the guy open it. If you can't, just as you open it, just put your nose in there and give a smell. you're going to pick up a sulfur smell. That is sulfuric and sulfurous acids. It's
Interesting.
highly corrosive. As the safe ages, that will dissipate. It never goes away. The lifetime of that ferrooxidin, that reaction is, it's going to go on for 30, 40 years. Because a tiny bit of pyrite that's in drywall makes a lot of these acids. So the industry could use other materials. This is so frustrating. And this is why when we started learning more about the gun safe industry, we just pulled away from it and said, no, we're never going down that way. They could use other materials. And they're not that much more expensive, but they are a little more expensive. There's things they could do that would be so much better. Instead, they make these products, the goldenrod. They make if you got a safe and you want to stop corrosion, use desiccants, don't use it. The heating rods, they reduce relative humidity. They don't get rid of humidity.
Yeah, they actually induce a current into the safe too.
They do, but the idea is you got your safe at 72 degrees, your house 72. The humidity in the safe, let's just say it's 65%. What's that mean? Well, 65% relative to temperature. So they put the goldenrod in there, heats the safe up to 85. Relative humidity goes down. The moisture content didn't change, but we use the term relative humidity, relative to temperature.
Right.
You're not getting rid of the moisture. You're better off, if you have a safe and you're worried about it, use desiccants. Remove moisture. Don't just, raising the temperature is, it's kind of bullshit.
Sure.
Marginally, you could say it does work. However, at a higher temperature, sulfuric and sulfurous acids operate much more effectively. So
Interesting stuff.
I think, I don't get crazy. We had shot a video, and we have a professor, science department of one of the colleges in New York did a series for us. We haven't released the video yet, and he just did a whole educational piece
Talking about all
on the chemistry, the organic chemistry of gun safes. And again, it comes down to, why are you using these materials? There are other materials available. It require you to do a little engineering change. There's other ways to do this. Well, they want to make the cheapest safe possible. They want the absolute cheapest safe they can sell. And again, they want to make profit. I'm a capitalist, and more power to them. But don't pursue it at the expense of the very thing you're supposed to be protecting, a firearm. And so I think the industry needs to change. The gun safe industry. The whole industry. I'd love to see some changes in it. But
what else would you like to
storage,
see away from firearms, or away from firearm storage and safes? What other things about?
I'll tell you what. A story just came out in the news. I'm going to talk about it in a couple of weeks on my lunch show. Is things like, you saw the article. The company, I don't remember the name. I don't have it in front of me. They made the gun that looks like it's made out of Legos.
Sure.
What the hell are they thinking? I come at this whole industry from the standpoint of, cops have one of the hardest jobs in America right now. Anybody in the security world is a very difficult job right now because of the way the media is treating them, the way politicians are treating them. And now you've got a company making a gun that looks like a child's toy.
Yeah.
So now you get cops going to a playground, and mom has her kids there, and they brought the Legos because, hey, kid loves to play Legos, no problem. And I'm sorry, I got kids. When they were kids, they made guns out of Legos.
We've got a very weird, Drew and I met a long time ago. Drew was in politics. I was involved in politics. I was involved in Second Amendment lobbying efforts in legislation. And a lot of guys younger than 40-ish have no idea that there was no such thing as concealed carry in America until the 1990s. People assume, somebody the other day commented, how could you have concealed a musket? Like, commenting like back in the day there was no such laws because you couldn't have concealed the guns, and as such the Second Amendment just blanketed all of these laws. Well, it just wasn't true. It was illegal to carry guns concealed in the Americas as old as our republic. So now you get all these young dudes that have this fantasy that, and I say this with respect, but you have this fantasy that back in the day you and I would run around with our tricorn hat on with a couple of muzzle loading pistols inside of our coat. It just wasn't allowed. It was illegal and it wasn't done. And so they've got this fantasy that anything that they want goes. And you're right, cops do have a hard time, and I think a lot of times we don't make it. We eat our own, and we are our own worst enemy.
It is. I mean, these guys, why did they make this gun? Like, what is it? I mean, the actual reason to make it? Because you're truly creating an impossible situation for anybody in security. You got a kid now who playing with Legos in his yard makes a gun. You don't know if it's real or not because you're now we're training these people like Legos can be real guns because we're making them. So the manufacturer, I think they probably did it knowing it was going to be divisive because they wanted the news story.
So
they wanted their 30 seconds of fame.
So my question to you was, what would you change? And so it sounds like you're saying you want people to act like grown-ups.
Yeah, just be responsible. We're all after the same thing. I mean, I think most of us, people who are in support of the Second Amendment, in support of firearms and owning them and being responsible. What are you after?
So I know that if I'm going to make sure I'm after the same things as you. I don't know you that well.
That's a good point. I believe in personal freedom, personal liberty, but with that is personal accountability.
So
I want the
personal freedom as long as I'm not making a Lego Glock.
Well, see, you have the right to do it.
Yeah.
And they absolutely have the right to make whatever they want to make and sell. And that's their choice. But I'm saying if we as a community want to protect our Second Amendment and just not have to deal with all the BS that's out there, why do it? There's no advantage, and we're driving a bigger wedge. There's enough wedges being driven into America right now by politicians. We're seeing so many things they're trying to cut America up into these little groups. And I know you've talked about it with some of your guests. I've listened to some of your podcasts. This, showing up at a gun rally decked out as Tactical Timmy with all your stuff. It's like, why are you doing that? You don't live your life that way.
Drew and I were at one. We've had the honor to lead the parade at our state capitol a few times, and there were guys that showed up in like mascot costumes, like stuffed animals, so that the newspaper would take a picture of them dancing around dressed like remember that, Drew?
Yep.
It was like, and I talked to these guys, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I've got a tie on and you look like a freaking dolphin or whatever. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, we're having fun. You're an idiot. You're going to go walk into the state capitol dressed like a raccoon or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in New York State, which is fairly oppressive to a state. But when they do their big rally, why are you all walking down Albany carrying your firearms? Yes, we all own firearms. We all know that. Why don't you walk down the way you walk to work, the way you deal with your life, and everybody look professional, because the media is against us for the most part. The politicians, the loudest voices seem to be against us. I think the majority of people are not. I think the majority of America is not anti-Second Amendment, but they're gonna take the photo that makes us look the worst.
Yeah.
Don't make that be you. If everybody looks presentable in some way, or looks confident, looks educated, confident. I was educated from a snob standpoint because I didn't go to college. I'm not an educated guy, but I still walk and I look the part.
Sure.
And I think it'd go a long ways.
That's just good sense. Like if you were going on a date for the first time, you wouldn't show up with not brushing your hair and teeth, and you're good on the hair, but teeth definitely.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same thing. Just present yourself. I got a lot of pushback for that. So before one of these rallies, I sent out a newsletter to thousands of people and said, hey, why don't we show up like we were going to a wedding or a job interview? Because we're going to talk to all of our legislators, and we got tons of emails back saying, F you, these people work for me, which I wholly agree with.
Yep.
I'm going to show up however I want to. And I said, okay, I get that, but catch more flies with honey. So you show up in your From My Cold Dead Hands t-shirt with BO and mustard stains on your pants and see how that goes for you, because that's just common sense.
Well, it's the equivalent of, I support the rights of any community, whether you're gay, I don't care what you are. Up until what you do interferes with somebody else's rights, you have the freedom to live your life.
Sure.
But when the gay community puts on a rally that is really provocative, parade, and they're really in people's faces with it, it's not helping their cause.
Sure.
The gun community shouldn't do the same. We got to look at the way the gun people.
That's the exact way that I correlate it, and I've got. I would lead a gay parade if somebody asked me to. It'd be hilarious. My dad would hate my guts. But when when you got naked people walking down a street where kids are walking around, it's like, well, hey, wait a second. I think it's the same thing.
So a 2A guy said the way you look at that and go, oh my God, those people are so obnoxious. That's how someone in America look at gun supporters when they show up at these rallies looking like,
Yeah,
I don't know, some mercenary fighting for it. It's like, guys,
it is ignorant, and I know listeners will disagree to what we're saying, but we're better than you, so too bad.
There you go. No.
He said it.
That's right.
I just am reading his face.
No, it's think about the big picture. What do we actually? Why are we here? If it's around, what do you want to achieve? If you want to achieve 10 seconds of fame, that's a different. That's the bikini mag dump shot. That's fine. It's not helping the cause.
It's actually how I start everything. Why are we here? What are we doing? What's the desired end state? Let's change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about business development, business management. What are some of if you had to pass on, so we get tons of entrepreneurs, business owners that have come on the show and that listen to the show. What are some of your philosophies of business development, of growth,
I sit down with everybody we hire. We're growing. Because of the team of people I have, we are now Inc. Magazine, one of the fastest growing companies in America.
It's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's all I did was create an environment. I've got an incredible staff, but I sit down with everybody when I hire them. And this drives, I'm a member of some peer-to-peer CEO groups, and it drives them nuts. I tell them, I say, look, I'm not paying you to work. Because my company works remote. It's like, Tom, how do you know they're working? I said, I don't care. And I tell them, look, I'm not paying you to work. You work to produce a result. I'm paying for results. If you can produce the result in 4 hours, that's great.
I'm with you on that, man.
It's because I'm paying for a result. I mean, you talk to people, you go to the whole.
It's another antiquated system.
It is.
Especially in this modern world where we're not at a factory having to create widgets all day.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If you're doing piecework, I get it. That's a different thing.
But you still produce the 1,000 pieces and go home, or whatever the number is.
If you're being paid as a security guard, if you're being paid to watch something, that's different. Mm-hmm. You're being paid by the hour to have eyes on by the hour. That is different. In my scenario, I want results. I pay for results. I'm telling. So it's my
get the sale, finish the design, whatever it is.
If you can do it quicker, do it quicker. The second piece for us in our company is fail fast. Fail fast. I always tell people, look, you're driving down a freeway or driving down a road, and there's a fork in the road. You're going 70 miles an hour. You don't stop because you're going to get rear-ended. You go one direction, and if you're wrong, you course correct. GPS comes out, whatever it is. And if you're right, you're right. You're that much farther ahead. In our company, I'm saying, guys, just move. Speed trumps accuracy in business. That's the biggest message for young entrepreneurs. Speed trumps accuracy. You can always course correct. As long as you're willing to look in the mirror and say, wow, I really screwed this up. Mm-hmm. And we had a major screw up in the company. It set us back almost a year on what will be the company's biggest product. And I said, guys, look, I screwed up.
You did it.
Well, it was my call.
Sure.
And I took responsibility for it. And it was very simple. Product development, we developed the part we knew how to do first, and the part we didn't know how to do, we pushed that off because you do the easiest thing first, and then the part that we didn't know how to do ended up our assumptions were wrong. We could not do what we wanted to do, so that meant all the development work on the part A was a waste of time.
Dang.
Because that had to change. We had to actually do this right. None of this works, and it was we had 7 months into this thing and probably $90,000 to maybe $120,000 into it. It wasn't completely wasted, but bulk of it was.
The lesson was there, though.
It was a great lesson for us is develop the hardest part of something. Whatever you don't know, you got to do that first, because that will your proof of concept. We just didn't do it right, and that was my call.
Engineering matters too.
It does.
I've got a lot of friends that are engineers and architects.
I'm a high school guy. I didn't go to college, and what I bring to my company is, I'm a creative guy. I'm a guitar player. So I live in the creative world. I hire people for the tactical side of things.
If you could go back and went to college, where would you go? What would you study? Doesn't have to be exact school.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Like, would you study art? Would you study...
No. If I was going to go back to college and study... God, there's so many things that would be fun to learn.
Yeah.
I probably... the way I am now, it'd be some outdoor science, forestry, something. I want to be outdoors.
Cool.
You know, the older I get, the more time I spend outdoors.
Yeah.
And I just
it's good for your soul.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. I'm much happier being up in the mountains, and I can go solo backpacking for a week, and I'm absolutely fine. I'd love being in a crowd too, but I find getting away.
That's why the old American poets like Thoreau and those guys. That's what they went and sat by ponds and lakes and
Yeah, it's
thought.
my problem with college is it's not how I learn.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest, for me, school didn't work for me. I read one book in 4th grade when I
What
graduated
was
high
it? Do
school.
you remember?
Flying Aces of World War II.
Oh,
or
there you
World
go.
War I.
There you go. Okay.
It was-
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I could read. It's just reading was so hard for me. I had some sort of a tracking issue that I really didn't get good at reading until I had little kids. And I was reading kids' books with huge text.
I see.
And all of a sudden, I started reading better. But yeah, I could barely read when I graduated.
Do you
high
read
school.
now?
Not much.
No.
I do. I read every day. I've never read a fiction book. I've never finished one. It's
Not a
too
fiction
much
guy.
work. Well, it's too much work. For me, it's too hard to read. I mean, it sounds weird to somebody who reads
Yeah.
a lot, but I got to sit there. My comprehension's 100%.
Do
but it
you
takes
do
me.
like audiobooks?
I do.
Yeah.
I do those
Audible.
now. I do. I'm doing Audible now. I just started that about a year ago.
I'm a big fan of that. I
And,
probably have 300 or 400 books in there that I've gone through.
I go to my office every day. It's 22 minutes each way. And yeah, I go through, I just finished Malcolm Gladwell's books.
All of
And,
them?
just about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's good.
He's
Some very heady stuff in
It
there.
is. He and I'm politically, I think we're quite different, but I think to sit down with a room with him and just talk and debate and go through things would be that would be so entertaining. So it would be so much fun because he's got a great mind for looking at things. And his tipping point, that
great book. It's a great book.
we apply that to, we're looking at what we do. We're looking at, there's a tipping point that's going to happen for us in about a year and a half, 2 years. There's a point where Simon Sinek, you know him? He did Starts With Why. He talks about the same thing, law of diffusion of innovation, which sounds like big words. It's just a new product comes out, early adopters buy it until you get to about 9 to 11% market penetration. At that point, your average person who doesn't buy the new thing jumps on board. The new Corvette comes out. There's guys that had to have that, rich guys had to have that car. I've got a lot of friends that love sports cars. We're like, no, don't buy the first year.
Yeah.
Wait till it's out for a while. That's your mass market. Well, we're still in our product. People buying our product are the people who love innovative new stuff. They're the early adopters. They're the ones that were in line to buy the first iPhone. That whatever the technology is, they want the latest, the newest optics. The mass market is still waiting back, skeptical. It's new, it's different, I'm not sure. So we look at this, and we're looking at our sales growth and where we're going in about a year and a half, 2 years from now. I told everybody we're going to fight. We're going to fight to get to 40 million. We're going to walk to 150. We're going to become, as our message gets out, because I'll tell you what, I've owned heavy gun safes and I've got my lightweight ones, and it's better. It is so difficult to own a heavy safe, especially if you're moving, if you're even just redoing your house. It's a pain in the neck, and you're not getting anything. At the end of the day, it
is a strange piece of furniture that doesn't. It's kind of like suburban folks that buy big jacked up pickup trucks. You got something and it doesn't really do the job that you need. You're not getting it muddy, you're not pulling anything with it, and it's this thing you jam in your house and it really doesn't do the job that you need. I think the biggest point, even if I disagree with the fire safety and all that crap, they don't store guns well.
No, at the end of the day, it's why do they make that interior?
Yeah,
and it's a great question.
It's stupid.
It really is, and I've never gotten an answer of why are you doing this, because what they do is they make the little W's, and if they can fit 40 W's in there, it's a 40 gun safe. We've got a couple of videos with the Liberty Fat Boy. Not to pick on Liberty, they're all the same, and they are all the same. If you notice, there's no interior; they're all the same.
Yeah.
Why?
Some of them might have a nicer carpet
right.
or
The higher
something.
end safes are leather, cheaper ones are carpeting.
Yeah.
But it's, again, what is the origin of that? I've never gotten that far other than somebody early on in the 70s just took a piece of wood and a jigsaw and said, this holds guns, cool, let's just do it.
Yeah.
You look at gun racks in a store and they've got the waving, it's not a bad way to hold guns for display in a store. But a gun safe, and what's fascinating is the whole industry is exactly the same. Your price points, you're changing the quality of the material. You might change the thickness of steel, but not much. Thicker steel doesn't get you security. I'm sorry, but people who buy safes with big plate steel, my saw in my video, I go through 1/4 inch steel almost just as fast as I go through 16 gauge steel. I can go through 1/2 inch steel, not much slower. The saw blade is designed to cut rebar up to 1/2 inch thick on a job site for concrete all day long. It's a production saw blade. It's $20. It's ripping through a safe in no time. So, but yeah, I'll go back to why is every gun safe the same? Somebody came up with one. They all shot off of that same company. They go over to China. They get them made in China, and they copied the same design.
I would add, though, we're also consumer driven. Like I'm rereading a book I read as a kid. It was written by a famous firearms author that wrote for magazines in the 50s, 60s, etc. And it's The Hunting Rifle. That's the title of the book. It was written, I think, in 1970. So this is all wood stock, bolt action guns. And like he's talking about automatic firearms, which is like Remington 760, which was a auto loading, which semi-auto, but auto loading gun. They called them auto loaders. And like at that time, the epitome of a hunting rifle was like a well-built bolt action with a Mauser, Mauser action and like a good piece of American glass on it, or German or Japanese glass, and that was it. There was nothing else. And so like we get this idea. A neighbor of mine, lovely man, recently offered me, it's probably beautiful, I didn't even take the time to look, you were talking about Grandpa's gun case with the glass. He said it was built in the 1800s, it'll hold 12 shotguns. He's a sporting clay guy. And he's asked me if I wanted it. I said, I appreciate the offer, but not only do I not want it, but like I don't want to put guns in something that's got glass as the barrier between people taking it. But that was everybody knew somebody that had one of those in their den.
When I was a kid,
had the little key lock on it.
You could have a rifle rack with a rifle in the back of your truck going to school. I mean, I'm not that old, but
sure. But I'm with you. But my point is we get it's a social norm.
It is.
Yeah, that's what we accept, and you just.
We do accept it, and I've talked about that at SHOT Show at the presentation. There's why have we accepted this? If we accept that a safe that says 36 guns is going to hold about 18, we accept it. Why? If you go, if you buy 30-round magazines and they're only able to load 27 rounds, and you take them back and the guy says, that's all they hold, you're not going to accept it. If you buy a 12-pack of beer and you get home, there's only 10 cans, and they say, that's all that fits in the box, sorry. You're not going to accept it. In the gun safe, we have accepted it, and they know we have. So that's why they no longer care.
The gun safe conspiracy.
Well, it's just they don't care anymore because, again, if you allow a kid to misbehave all the time, he's going to misbehave all the time. We're allowing the gun safe.
So are you saying we need to spank the gun safe industry and put them in the corner?
I think consumers need to hold these manufacturers accountable.
Yeah.
Just say no.
Yeah, just don't buy the shit.
When you go to a gun safe store, I'd love somebody to do this, and you got to bring a camera with you. But if you're buying a 24 gun safe, show up with 24 guns for a test drive. Because and videotape it and watch the guy who at the safe say, okay, show me how it stores 24 guns. And even make them easy, simple, like just simple bolts, no optics, lever actions. You're not going to get anywhere near it. But nobody's going to do that. But why aren't we asking a question saying, well, this holds 36 guns? Well, he goes, well, actually it only holds this many. Well, why are you selling it? Why are you saying this?
Yeah.
And they shouldn't. I'd love to see some honesty in that. The fire rating is just a myth. Security is, there is a level of security to a gun safe. It's no different than my cabinet. And when you look at the rating, the rating on all gun safes, you open the door of your gun safe, you're going to see a little sticker. It says UL class RSC, or I think it's 18013. There's a designation code, but it's usually RSC. That's the UL rating. UL is Underwriters Laboratory, was created by the insurance industry.
Which is right here.
They are. And it was created in the late 1800s when electricity was being brought to homes. The fear was fire. And insurance companies who were writing policies said, how do we understand this? They created UL to test electrical components so they could understand the risk of fire in homes. That's why it was created. They added safes to it because back then, the only thing that was secure was a safe. There was no other electronic security measures. So jewelry stores, anybody that had valuables, including banks, they rated safes. There's Class A, Class B.
Big, heavy concrete suckers.
They're from big, there's all sorts of UL class ratings for safes. There's probably 15, 20 different ratings.
Oh, interesting.
The gun safe industry, when they dumped the double-walled, cement-filled safes because they're too heavy and built these new drywall safes, went to UL and said, we need a rating. So UL evaluated the safe and gave them Class RSC, Residential Security Container. The word safe isn't part of it because UL's claim is this does not meet the minimum performance to be called a safe. It is a container, a residential security container. And what the test is, what they are preventing, that rating guarantees you per UL, is it will block access from one person with a pry bar of less than 18 inches, a hammer of less than 3 pounds, and a small hand drill. That's a 1955 threat. If you think about the threat level, that's a guy with a mask in a Batman show, but I mean in the early 60s. I mean that's but when you flash forward to today, I've got a 20-volt worm drive DeWalt saw.
Yeah, I was going to say the cordless tools.
I will go through these safes. I haven't shot a video with this. I shot the video with my 1988 skill saw, the oldest saw that I own.
You chopped the top off of the one.
Yeah, I just walked right around it. And the security rating was done at a time, or against the threat level that's just not a threat level. The threat is saws. That's how safes are opened. Safes aren't pried open, they're cut open. And anywhere you look where safes are open, and the biggest data that I've come up recently, and it was popular for a while, was guys breaking into cell phone stores and stealing all the cell phones. And they come to the saw and they cut the safes open because they kept them in the safes because they were at a risk. And that was the big source of safes being open. They're using gun safes because they're big. I mean, it's the only big, affordable safe you can buy is a gun safe.
Gotcha.
But
container.
Yeah, residential security container. So don't think because you spent $7,000 on it, you've got a lot of security. You don't. You don't. Secrecy is much better than weight. And if you're going to buy a big, heavy safe, you still want to put it in a place where nobody knows where it is.
I dig it.
But I say break up the collection. Small modular cabinets. It's just easier way to live.
You guys ship right to the consumer?
We do. At one point, we started dealing with Bass Pro and some of the dealers, and we moved away from it. The pricing was getting so high because anything you buy at a big box store, the store is making 40 to 60%. 40 to 60% of that price is the store's commission. So for us, that means doubling the price for the store. Well, part of our mission is to make sure every gun in America is properly secured. If our prices, we're not cheap now. We know we're not. We're trying to get our costing down. It's not easy to bend metal. It's not easy to make a high quality steel product affordable. And but by going into those stores, the pricing was going to be up, and we're giving them all this margin. They're not giving the consumer anything. It's sitting on a shelf. Some guys, there's gun safes over there. That's not helping anybody. So we decided, let's go direct.
That model's dead.
I think so. The direct model for us allows us to really control the message, but it is a slower rollout. If I was in every single Bass Pro shop, millions of people would see my product right away. And the route we're taking is a much slower route. But, early on, we spent money in advertising. Last 18 months, I've had some of my fastest growth. We spent zero. It's word of mouth. Our customer base is our sales force.
Well, you're advertising right now. You're here talking. You paid to be here. Right. And by paid to be here, he traveled here. Nobody pays us to be on the show. Yeah. We've never met until today. You are not doing any advertising with us. We wanted to talk with you, but you're doing the effort of getting the word out there.
Our goal is to change the way America thinks about firearm storage. And we believe when people know what we know, our product makes sense. There's other products out there too but this idea that fire ratings mean something is just crap. This idea that because it's heavy, it's secure is crap. And the internals of a gun safe have to change. And eventually
how do people find your products?
Google Secure It. They'll find everything. We've got a big YouTube channel. We've got all this stuff out there. Secure It Gun Storage. There's also Secure It Tactical, which is our military side of the company. It's a completely separate website.
Does that side also sell to like law enforcement agencies?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, we do all three letters. We do, and we sell a lot of military product to consumers. All of our military cabinets are available. They're not inexpensive, but
Yeah, if somebody wants to dial in their garage or their shop or whatever room they've got, you can do it.
the people who buy our tactical rack, and it's an expensive rack, buy 5 of them too. It's guys that live with the extra zero. Money's a catalyst,
Sure.
and they've got hunting lodges and they've got places. They don't care. They want what they want. They want the look they want. They want the security they want, and they deck it out.
Sure, I dig it.
But the average person, simple, lightweight, secure storage, and get all the guns locked. I mean, I've heard you talk about it. If every gun was properly locked, our industry would be safer.
Yeah, it's beyond ignorant to me. Nobody would leave a sharp kitchen knife like in the drawer in the living room. Nobody would leave. Well, actually, side note, it's amazing how many crazy chemicals and solvents and stuff people leave around their house, because it's the same thing as we get comfortable with things. We get comfortable with junk gun safe. We get comfortable with crap fast food. We get comfortable because this bottle of bleach that's under my sink, it's never hurt me yet, and you get so used to it being there till your kid pours the shit on his sister's face, and then you're like, I can't believe I left this completely poisonous thing. And of course, all the things say keep out of reach of children. The stuff we sell online, I have to, by law, put a sticker that says this bag is a choking hazard, etc. Nobody reads that. They toss it.
Liability.
Yeah. And that's, I think, it's good to have these conversations. I know people listening are like, yeah, like tell me something I don't know. But we all do it. We text and drive as a society. We drink and drive. I don't mean people in this room, but just people do these things that they know they shouldn't, but then they see somebody else do it, like leave a gun unprotected, and they say he's an idiot or she's an idiot.
I've talked about this to people, and I say if you're in a room in your house, and all of a sudden something happens, you get a crack in the drywall. If you don't fix it right away, once it's there for 3-4, you get used to it. And I've got a spot, we had a pipe break, and we had drywalled that. And my spot in my kitchen was drywalled, sanded, just hadn't been painted.
For 11 years.
5. It's 5. I actually painted it. I got up one morning, I said, what?
Fix this. This is not the kind of man you are.
Exactly. It's just and it's not even that noticeable. But there's a couple of spots, but that's that if you don't take care of it right away, you get used to it. Well, we get used to it. You just said. How many dangerous things in your home that don't have to be, but we're used to it. But firearms it's at a different level because of the level of power and just the reach of depending on the firearm, how far that bullet can reach. I do think though, I know a lot of people talk about Second Amendment, Biden administration, anti-gun, but I think after last year, one of the things we saw was sales, certainly for our product, and the calls we got, and the people who were first-time gun buyers, these were all Democrats. These were all liberals. These are people who were in Minneapolis, believers that only the government should hold guns. And then one night they looked out the windows of their condos and the streets are on fire. There's an angry mob and they're tearing businesses apart. They're looting, they're robbing. And the only thing keeping these people from going up the stairs and just killing these people was luck. And they turn the TV, what the hell's going on? And they say, rioting, boom, boom, boom. And there's the town council. We're going to defund police. We're going to get rid of police. We're going to go to social work and all those talking points. And for the first time, there's a lot of liberals, a lot of Democrats, a lot of people who were anti-gun realized safety and security starts with you. It's you are responsible for your safety and your security.
100%.
And they all went out. And I think, unfortunately, it drove a lot of bad sales. First-time gun buyers who are scared don't always make good decisions.
Sure.
And
I think whenever you're in a position of anxiety, you usually don't make good choices.
I'm not, again, for me, once the gun's in your hands, I'm no longer the expert. But for me, I'm not a handgun guy. I don't train enough. I don't shoot enough. I don't consider a handgun for my personal defense. I use an AR-15. I have a pump shotgun.
Sure.
Because is a handgun easier to store? Yes. But I'm not proficient with it. And ego-wise, I'm a guy. Hey, sure, I got to shoot a gun. Heck, but actually, in a true crisis scenario, I do a lot more work with an AR-15. I enjoy it more. And you do it. I mean, it's just, to me, I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert at it, but that's my choice.
You're more comfortable using that to protect
Absolutely.
your family.
And I think first-time buyers, people ask me, what's the best gun for first-time buyer? And I've got very liberal family members. I said an AR-15. And I said, an AR-15 is safer. It's easier to train. It's easier to learn. It's easier to be proficient. I said, the problem is people buying their first gun, they just want to own a gun a little bit. So they buy a little gun.
Yeah.
And a real small frame gun is more, again,
it's horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a horrible choice. It's like getting a Ferrari for a teenager.
Right. It's exactly, that's a great analogy. I said, no, AR-15 is but I don't want to be a gun person. I understand that. Your goal is safety and defense. This is the safest gun to learn and be proficient at. With the minimal amount of training, you can maintain proficiency with an AR-15.
Sure.
With a handgun, you've got to be shooting a lot more often. And most of these people that bought the handgun took the class. If they had ammo, they went to the range. We're going to flash forward 3 years from now, and these guns will be in boxes on shelves, and they're going to be, where did I put that?
Yep.
You know it's coming.
All the time.
And it's, tell anybody out there, if you're going to make the decision to buy a firearm, it's a life-changing decision. I mean, this is what you do. This is your world.
I totally agree with you. Actually, we get tons of first-time gun buyers, and one of the whole things we talk about with them is how are you storing that? What are you doing? Even if it's just the trigger lock that we now by law ship with every new gun, put that thing through there. If it's sitting in the closet, and that's not a good solution if you need to access it for protection. But if it's just sitting in the closet, that thing should be in there for sure.
It is. That's one of the big initiatives that we're going to start fourth quarter this year, and we want to roll out through the instructor community. We're doing a curriculum. We're actually working with a couple of instructor trainers right now to write a curriculum to bring storage more upfront in basic firearms training. And it's not going to be secured branded by this product. It's going to be, but the idea that storage, how you store firearms determines your safety, security, and ability to defend yourself. Training, once the gun's in your hand, hey, now that's where you take over, it's training. But until then, how you store it, I mean, if you can't get to it.
It's a lifestyle, not in the sense like when people are like, it's a lifestyle, like you got to buy this specific coffee or t-shirts. Right. That's not what I mean. It's a lifestyle that you have now taken an object that can take life with the flick of a finger and brought it into your family and your home. That does create how you dress and things like having safes in your home or containers.
Yes.
UL rated containers.
There you go. Well, if you're going to do the firearms though, I always tell people, I say join a club, shoot a lot, and don't just get the gun for safety and security, but have fun. Enjoy the community. There's a lot of neat things that people like. Okay, you got your first handgun. That's great. Let's go shooting. Let's go shooting sporting clays. I always tell people, let's go out, and if you've got somebody who's getting their first firearm, take them out to a clay course. Get them doing the things that are fun to do to get them in the industry. We want to convert somebody not just owning a gun, but being a gun enthusiast. And my wife's a great example. She's not a firearms person. So take her out shooting sporting clays because that's fun. I'm going to take her to a range shooting a handgun. She doesn't want to do that. But for her, it's baby steps. But if somebody's got their first gun, going to a range and shooting a handgun every week, every 2 weeks, some people find it fun. I'm not a big range shooter with handguns. I like to go out shoot moving targets. I like to set up longer range scenarios that I shoot. Oh shit! Now we're gonna. Oh boy.
Yeah, man. We're gonna
zip up, man.
Make you.
What is it?
I think if the guy says he's a guitarist, we might as well get him to play a little bit while we're in the office.
You want some cool? What do you want?
Just do you, man. This will be your first podcast with a guitar in your hand.
We can do some blues. You got a buzz in that.
That is
That's a sitar.
my sister years ago. Her and her husband were doing a like Battle of the Bands thing, and that was the prize, was a cheap giveaway guitar from Shinerbach.
There you go.
So that has become the throw around guitar around here. Oh, a little SRV.
You need a pick for him, really. I bet it's thin too.
It is.
If you're gonna play guitar,
you're a thick pick guy.
everybody
Medium?
should be.
Oh,
Everybody.
everybody.
Yeah. It's thin picks are sloppy. You'll never play. There's no proficient technical guitar player to use a thin pick. There isn't one.
Plectrum.
Plectrum.
Isn't that what they're really called? A plectrum. So you're a blues guy.
Lately, I mean, I play most of my stuff in DADGAD, D-A-D-G-A-D tuning for fingerstyle. For regular guitar, I do blues or cool jazz. The cool part. Nobody wants to listen to jazz, though.
I do.
It's
We listen to jazz.
self-indulgent.
We love jazz around here. Who doesn't want to listen to that? They're nuts. Are you
jazz-
guys don't like jazz? What's wrong with you?
Jazz is meant for jazz music. I can play jazz. I'm
Sure.
not a jazz guy.
Yeah, their brains work different.
Well, they teach music theory of this idea of, and anybody teaches music theory, that's fine. But actual musicians don't have theory. They've got the brain. They've got what's in their head and they play it. After the fact, a scholar comes along and says, "Oh, this is this. Oh, so and here's theory. This is the math behind what they're doing." But a musician is just playing. If you're playing on a song, I don't know the song, I'm looking at the music, I'm using theory to say, I gotta cover my ass on this thing. But if I'm just playing, I'm not paying attention.
The dudes listening, what are top 3 musicians that they should check out that maybe they've never heard of, especially if they're younger folks?
Stevie Ray is
that's it,
absolutely.
yeah.
If you're into guitar, you gotta check out Ulrich Roth,
Oh, sure.
Uli John Roth. He was my biggest influence.
Okay.
Way back in the day. Other guitar players, I'll tell you, there's Chet Atkins, amazing guitar
yeah.
player. Roy Clark
Roy was great.
was a
Yeah.
what's
Jerry Reed, all those dudes.
Jerry Reed? Is that
Yeah, Jerry was.
my guitars are? I have two. The string spacing is, I'm say, 1/2 inch wider.
What do you play?
They're custom. I have two custom made, a nylon string, a classical that's narrower, and a steel string that's wider, so they're the same.
You're comparing custom-made guitars to
Yeah.
something
No,
that
but I used
probably
to play
costs
like a Taylor.
$68.
Right.
I like Taylors.
I played Taylor with it's a fingerstyle keyboard, so the nut here is about an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch wider.
What
So
electrics did you play?
a right now I have 2 Telecasters, a Strat. I like Strats. Back in the day, I was Strats.
Yeah.
And I always tell Les Paul is a Rolls Royce,
Sure.
a Strat is a Ferrari. They're both really good guitars, but they do different things.
You'd like that G&L that's upstairs.
Yeah, I had a G&L.
That's a good guitar.
In fact, I used G&L bridges on my Strats in the 80s, 90s. Because the Floyd Rose, remember those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had an Ibanez.
They killed the tone of a Strat.
Yeah.
And in fact, when Eddie Van Halen went through that, they don't talk about it, but he went through a lot of EQing equipment to get the tone back to the guitar. G&L made a bar that stayed in tune with a stock Strat. And so I had G&L on a 1972 Strat. Eventually, I put a Floyd Rose on it, and I killed the Strat.
You guys are learning all kinds of stuff you didn't think you were gonna.
That guitar now would have been worth. I made 2 of them. They'd be worth a lot of money, but back in the day, that's what we did. We modified them, and I ended
Hot
up
rodding them.
Yeah,
So, folks listening,
yes.
if they never see you again, never cross your path,
There you go.
what would you leave them with?
If we're back with our industry, back with what we're doing
In general.
in general?
Just Tom. If they never see Tom or hear from you again,
Yeah.
what would be the legacy in their brain that you would leave if you could imprint one forever and always?
Don't be afraid to fail and learn fast. Fail to learn. So fail often.
I like it.
And if people who look at me, they say, "God, you're so successful." I wasn't. I've been dead broke.
Dude, I've been
many
there so
times
many
in my life.
times
In fact, and I go back pretty recently, and my kids didn't know it. That we were at a point of about ready to sell our house. And it was bad, and nobody knew it. My family, my wife knew, but nobody else knew. They all thought, "Oh, Tom, they're really successful. He had this business going on." I'm like, we're against a wall.
I've been there. Yeah, I've been there.
But the other side of it is, I've been broke. I started off life with in a crappy apartment with a really bad neighborhood, lots of drugs, lots of cops, some gunfire now and then, and we didn't have any money, but we weren't less happy. My wife and I, we got married. We didn't have any money.
Yeah.
I look back when you're broke, all we could do was go for hikes.
A cheeseburger's a great time. Yeah, a
but
movie.
when your options are limited, sometimes it's easier.
I'm with you.
When you're making a lot of money, it's like, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know, you can do anything. What do you want to do? And now you got this.
You're buying problems. Yeah, I gotta fix the pool.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's those issues. I got kids now I got college age kids, so.
Yeah, now you're paying for that stuff.
They fix all that stuff.
I just became a grandpa, so I'm.
Did you really?
Yeah, so
Wow. I started a little late. We waited, and then it took us like 5-6 years to have the first one. All of a sudden, we had 3 in a row. But it's
So fail quickly.
Yeah, I think
learn from it.
That is and don't be afraid to be creative. Kids are born 100% creative, and it's destroyed. It's beaten out of them. A little kid, little kids say crazy stuff, but then they go to school, and their first day of school, they say something silly, and everybody laughs and looks at them. Well, I'm not going to do that again. And the creative thoughts are drilled out. The kids who are out there, kids with the crazy stuff, they get picked on. And everybody learns to conform.
Was that you?
No, I didn't get picked. I didn't care.
I didn't mean to kick down, but were you crazy kid? I mean, you're an artist.
Yeah.
Usually artists are a little out there.
I was very aware of my surroundings, and I did not want to get... nobody wants to be outside the herd. So I was very aware of not stepping out of line as a kid. However, I also... I got through school with a wink and a smile with my teachers.
Me too.
Not with... and then I was a math whiz, and
oh, that's cool.
I'm most likely on the Asperger's spectrum. My daughter's on Asperger's, probably got it from me, where it's part of the reading issue, part of that stuff. But I took algebra, I got 100s. She says, "Show your work." And I says, I don't know how.
I just know how to get to
I
the
said,
result.
I know this is the answer. I can't show all those steps. And I finally got to, was in high school, and I got a bad mark in math because I didn't turn in the work. And I said, I don't know how to do it. And she says, "What do you mean you don't?" I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to. I can tell you that that's the answer, but I don't know why." And it drove my teacher nuts. But there's a lot of people like that. They just see things a certain way, Yeah,
our education system, it's interesting. There's a lot of people in our community, and we're kind of talking again here for a second, but people, they don't like the education system. But then what we're talking about, I think, is perfect example. Like, we've got this thing that we've created that's not producing well-rounded adults. You and I did not go to school, and people work for us, and I've got tons of friends and family who have six-figure college debt, which if you're going to be a doctor or something, yes, you can't learn that
No,
on
it's
the
you
internet.
know what?
But
College is right for some people. It's not right for others. Don't go to college if you don't have a reason to go. Don't go. I mean, there's so many things you can do.
right.
And it's interesting. Our job application had college on it at one point. Just like, guys, you got to take that off.
Yeah.
I go, I didn't go to college. I own the place. You can't ask about a college degree because it really doesn't matter. Now we've got we actually have an intern with us right now who I'm hoping is going to come on with a full-time position. He's from Hong Kong, and he's a student at SU and working in logistics. So it'll be interesting. If things go well, we're going to actually work with him to help him get a green card.
Cool.
And he'll be working for us.
I like it. Man, I had a great time talking. I wasn't sure how the discussion would go. You clearly are passionate about disrupting this space. You've got, I like the last point about creativity with children. I think that, that in this community, this industry of people, that's what's important, because the anti-gunners are teaching kids to hate guns, to hate liberty, to hate what our founders stood for. And on the converse side of that, we need to do the opposite and help kids understand how to be themselves, to respect our history.
Yeah, I wish, they're so well organized from the educational standpoint. They've been doing this for a long time. The indoctrination, you hear those terms, indoctrination in schools.
It's real, man.
It is, and it started in the 60s. And it's been because they have, the hardcore socialists have a 50-year plan. The conservatives don't have a plan other than we just want to be left alone. I still think, as somebody said it, probably, I don't know who said, when the people who just want to be left alone finally get involved, a lot of this goes away. I'm thinking midterm elections are going to be eye-opener because Trump almost won. Big tech was against him. Media everything was against him. Some people argue he
was his
did
worst
win.
enemy in many ways too.
If he runs and like this, is it DeSantis out of Florida that's looking? If they end up going against each other, DeSantis should come out and just say, I agree. I agree with every single one of his policies. I just don't think the tweeting helps. And I agree. I'm going to be a mirror of what I believe in all this stuff. I just think that there's a presidential aspect that was missing. And I think that's a don't debate him.
Yeah.
Agree with him.
Yeah.
And just let him live on that.
What do you think, Drew?
I haven't thought about it.
No.
There you go. I like Trump. I've always liked him because he's divisive. I disagree with a lot of the stuff, the way he was doing stuff. And I really thought when he was president, he would become presidential because that's the job, and he seems to do the job. But I saw him at a speak, and I wasn't backstage, but I was pretty damn close to it. He came walking through. It's a dark area, and there's all these big wigs and dignitaries and people around him, and he ignored them, and he stopped and shook the hands of all the stage crew and whispered something to all of them as he approached. I said, there's a guy. I mean, he worked, and I've heard that about him, that he takes care of the workers.
Cool.
I think that was a good tell, because I'd never seen him before. And he had the opportunities to shake hands with. It was an NRA. LaPierre was there, Cox, all those guys were there, and he just walked around them, and because he knew he was going to have time with these guys, and talk to all the stage crew guys. But
I dig it.
then he wouldn't shut up. He couldn't. He just the Rosie O'Donnell comment though in the debate was brilliant. It was funny. It was bad, but it was.
It's unnecessary.
It is, and that's a great example. When we look at 2A issues, is just because it's fun or loud or you're right, isn't necessary.
It's not going to get the result.
No,
it's not going to get the sale. It's not going to get the vote. It's not going to get the result, and that's the point that a lot of people need.
I think that's in 2A debate. Too many people aren't focused on results. They're focused on the show. They're focused on the now.
Yeah, you want to be loud. Go ahead, man.
Right.
But you're going to lose in that aspect, because oftentimes you're also arguing with somebody that's educated in arguments, educated in law, educated in concepts beyond just pounding your chest. Hey, in that, final word.
Final word, let's go back to living our lives and getting rid of this COVID bullshit and pressure everybody to make the mask go away. This is, science doesn't support it. Let's all go back to living our lives and just do things right. If you've got firearms that aren't locked, lock them. If you haven't shot your guns in a while, go to a range. If you're not comfortable with it, go to an instructor.
Oh, thanks for plugging me.
Let's do what we can as a community to work as a community and get this country back in a place where we want it. I think most people agree on that.
I agree.
Even this, I hold some liberal views, but they're not, we all do. We hold conservative views. It's just a problem. Everybody's focused on the most divisive views. Mm-hmm. But if you actually look, I've got family members that are very liberal, but we actually share more in common than we don't.
100%
because
agree.
we're being driven to focus on just those differences. So
everybody that comes in signs the picture behind you. Today's date. You can even throw Secure It on there. It's the 20th. You guys listening, we appreciated that you joined us today. Check out Secure It. If you are viewing this, leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you think there's something that we could have done better. If not, tell us what you liked about it. Tell Drew thank you, because he's behind these cameras and at the editing desk for hours long after our conversation's over. Be well, don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them, and if you choose to, walk the higher line. Be good.
thanks a lot.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com. Hey man, what are you doing in the podcast room, Steve?
I'm writing a national anthem. It's going to be at folk festivals for Gunfighter Gun-Oil.
Oh.
Let me tell you about Gunfighter Gun-Oil. Made in the USA. Gunfighter Gun-Oil, 100% synthetic. It's gonna last you, baby. Yeah. Gunfighter Gun-Oil is the best I've ever seen. It's gonna make you get everything that you've ever seen. Oh, baby, I love me some Gunfighter Gun-Oil. Yeah. Oh, Gunfighter Gun-Oil. Gunfighter.
Gonna get my lighter out. I don't have it.
It wasn't even Bob Dylan. It was like a love story.